Go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial cast, bringing you coverage of the LJL 2020 Summer Split Playoffs, Game 1, Round 1, in favor of Crest Gaming Axe, gentlemen, but it wasn't the cleanest victory, now was it, sirs?
No, it wasn't. But when is a CGA game actually clean? We saw the kill score go 5-1 in favor of the Hawks, lots of early ganks going their way, but then CGA brought it back in the way that they seemingly always do.
Let's talk about that early game, because it was very much in the favor of the Hawks at some point. I remember seeing the robot, Mr. Blitzcrank made an appearance, AI prediction, 74% in their favor. So, Greyheart, I must ask you, did you think the Hawks had a chance this game?
Well, there's a reason we're not dealing with robot overlords just yet, at least not that I know of. And at the end of the day, there was an advantage, but it was never really more than 1,000 gold or two. And from the moment that we had a brief interruption to our stream, however, there was one player that went up in the top lane where 2 kills were quickly secured for Arya, and from that moment, Arya pretty much never looked back. Gango had a solid performance too, and well, yeah, you could definitely argue that the Hawks were potentially in a good spot. They never really pushed those advantages well enough.
No, and that's something I must ask you both. What do you think the Hawks should have done versus Crest in this game?
Not that.
Not that. I think a lot of it starts from the fact that you did end up drafting Ashe into Jhin, which is really risky, given that it's Gango's Jhin. I'm actually wondering that you might have to ban that pick now. He showed up really huge on that pick, hitting a lot of Ws, hitting a lot of ults. I know there was that one skill shot you're talking about, Stan, but I wonder if you're playing into this kind of counter-pick meta that you just don't allow Gango to do that.
Okay, so, but on the Hawks side, what do you do to not get out of the spot when you have a 74% chance in winning this game according to AI Greyheart? What do you need to do to stop punting?
I think that it's just a little bit of clever map rotation. So I moan a lot about teams that they position and they don't respect various things that are happening. We see it time and time again, especially from top laners, where you see their team making play on the other side of the map, but then they still step forward and do things when they're not going to be teleporting in to join the fight. This basically happened in the last game, where they found themselves advantages, and yet they then sort of just went, we're going to play disrespectfully towards the opposition, and they opened the door to allow Gango and Arya back in with these kills. If they were going to transition that slender gold lead they had into a win, then realistically they've got to actually be turning the screw more and being very precise with their movements. It never, ever felt like they were doing that. We saw Pooh get caught time and time again, scatter the week after scatter the week after scatter the week, and yeah, it was pretty doomed.
And yeah, I think it's a really big thing that this happened versus like a comp with like Leona Zoe too, which is such a huge pick comp, and you were the guys getting picked. Like, come on! I'm pretty sure that's like meant to be the opposite of what's happening there.
Yeah, that kind of comes down a little bit to.
I have no idea how consistent my.
Oh, he's back.
Okay,
right. Go for it.
Okay, right. So just more internet thingies on the side of things. Actually, we've got the post-game breakdown on screen right here, and you were talking about that. We were saying, okay, early game lead to the Hawks. Yeah, around about like 11 minutes for the first time, and then things kind of got really awkward after that point. Just the gold lead was such a disaster from that point onwards. A lot of that did come through some very big team fights from CGA. The big one was that, I think it was the 4th dragon fight when we saw Leona get picked off for the first time. It did get turned into a 1-for-1, but after that point, it pretty much showed that the Hawks were not in a position where they were winning the team fights that they should have been winning at the best point for them in the game, given the gold lead.
And part of that comes down to what both of us were saying in terms of the fights that they were choosing. They were the ones with the pick comp, yet they were the ones who got picked off. They responded poorly. We saw both of the dragon fight, I believe the one that you were talking about, and also then at a baron fight as well. One player get picked off, and then a teleport coming in from, is it Aramik, the top laner?
Yes, yeah. He just got immediately...
And immediately... Exactly, and it was the decision making was good from CGA in the fact they immediately turned to the teleport, picked him off. However, it was poor decision making. It wasn't an effective pincer movement. It was exceptionally questionable decision making, and I don't think that the Hawks can afford to do that again if they don't want to find themselves match point down.
Well, at least it's the best of 5, right? Got yourself some free lives.
Yeah, one of those free lives has already vanished, and I mean, we both predicted a 3-0 to CGA, and I'm certainly not changing my prediction right now.
And
so predictions are going to be locked in for both of you. Still on that 3-0. You're not going to. The Hawks aren't going to be able to find the crowbar way through like Gordon Freeman and secure at least one victory and prevent it from being Half-Life 3, right? Or is it just that? Is it 3-0? Is it just going to be decisive Crest Gaming Act all the way through, gentlemen? I want you to elaborate why.
I think that you had a game where you had really good pressure mid. Great. That's a wonderful way to deal with CGA and get your star player ahead. You had games where, like, your jungler is ganking early, tussles on the map. Awesome. You still don't win. You don't get the objectives. You don't rotate well enough. Your top lane is kind of a non-factor. This was one of the better case scenarios, and if it ends up like this, I don't have much hope for the Hawks.
Sure. Yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say a similar thing. If you want to use a Gordon Freeman metaphor, then I think that you've got to look towards a new game that's just come out in Fall Guys, which gave a Gordon Freeman bonus outfit to those who pre-ordered, and they're in that Gordon Freeman outfit on the edge, and frankly, we saw the Hawks getting ahead in that game, but then they got knocked straight into the slime, and there was no coming back from that.
Ooh, early elimination from probably someone pulling them. We've all been there if you've played Fall Guys. We've all been.
Especially
I played it for the first
time,
like 4 hours ago, and it was awful. And no, it was fine. It was fun.
I've already racked in 30 hours, and the game's only been out for a week.
Oh my word!
So it's become a slight game of choice for me.
How many wins have you picked up so far?
I don't want to talk about that. Okay, like, that's I say I've had one, and I've had countless second places. I've actually counted my second place in a document. I've had 40 second places.
And speaking of second places and second games, we're into draft, actually, all things said and done.
You mean we don't get to keep talking about Fall Guys? And
unfortunately not. We have to talk about the draft, and looks like the sides have reversed. Hawks are on blue side.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing similar bans to last time round. Already that Bard, Caitlyn, and Lilia taken away. Set the big change so far. We saw this one early picked by CGA. They don't want SHG getting their hands on it.
No, I guess they just think that's something that they're not prepared to play against. It doesn't interact well with their playstyle. Whereas the Hawks saying, yeah, Caitlyn, just kind of too strong. I think the thing for me is that if you're going to pick Caitlyn yourself, you know that Gango's going to lock in Jhin. We saw what happened with that Jhin already in the last game, so you don't maybe you don't even win both sides of that matchup because Gango is so good at that Jhin, one of the champions which can do well into him. Actually, same ban again, Twist of Fate, third one.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, just wait on these last couple of bans to come through, and as we wait on these first picks, do we still have Mass One with us?
That is a good question. So
we seem to have lost the Mass One. I was just going to ask if they want to change their prediction at all, because they were the ones who said 3-1 or 3-2 potentially. So just wondering if they felt confident or not.
Well, I'm sure he can check back in with his thoughts later. I think he's gone off into the background somewhat. And, well, one thing straight in the foreground, though, is that Volibear once again picked up first round for the Hawks, but this time they're on blue side. They think that this is worthy of the first pick.
Well, it's got flex potential. It got a little more weakness in the jungle than it previously did. The insta-lock of the Jhin from CGA. They know that Gango had a good game last time around. They want to see more of the same. I don't expect to see an Ashe opposing this one.
Oh, this is the problem now. What do you pick into the Jhin? Are you going to lock in Felios, maybe? The Ezreal is available. They might just go into the Ashe matchup again and just say, look, we play better around the Ashe arrow than we really care for the lane matchup. And speaking of lane matchups, the Renekton locked in again for Nap. It's very early lock-in, but we saw Aramik not really doing much during the top lane last time.
Yeah, they obviously have no problem with that part of the composition. CGA, in fact, they have changed nothing so far. They will have to make some small adaptations, however, of course, because the set not available for Grendel this time round. Tussle is going to take the Ezreal instead of the Ashe. However, we're still... we're going to see that for Honey. We are also seeing Pooh having the Leona again.
So, I wonder if we're going to have a return of the favor of Arya locking in the Zoe himself. Or maybe just picking up the mid laner now and banning out Dasher on the other side. But they still have red side now. They can counterpick whatever they want to. They're not going to do that. Unica's going to pick up his Trundle again. Very strong anti-tank top side. And there are already 2 tanks locked in from the Hawks. We saw how that worked out last game. We're really well into the later stages of the game. And the important thing for me now is that... So, mid laners, both of them haven't picked anything. Which means that Arya, probably angling for a counterpick. And with a champion pool his size, he's probably going to get himself a choice matchup.
one thing to note is that CGA, rather than that set which they banned away from SHG this time, did ban the LeBlanc themselves, not wanting to opt into it themselves as an early pick, but this time it is available should we see Aria want to take it. The Syndra, which we saw used to great effect last time, also still there. Of course, SHG do have the opportunity to ban out both of those champions should they choose to, and there goes one of them.
I remember when CJ took down V3, the undefeated team in the LJL for the longest time. They went 9-0. They came up against CJ, and they came up against Aria's LeBlanc and Gango's Jhin at the same time. We had a play where their mid laner got caught out by Chain into a Jhin route, into a Jhin ult, and the guy just died out of nowhere. CJ very much like to play around these skirmishing tools, so it is good that the Hawks are removing a lot of these options from them. I wonder if they're going to ban away the Zoe themselves now, but they do have a lot of other choices they can take off the table.
Interesting couple of bans from CGA, taking away Tussel's Lee Sin as the Zoe gets banned away, as you just rightly predicted there, Alex. Interestingly enough, also banning away this Kennen, aware that Volibear technically still can be flexed into the jungle, not wanting to see Aramik able to pick up the Yordle.
So this is Aramik's crutch pick. He just uses it all the time. It's his most played pick, and if he gets ahead on it, he does really crush lanes. He was solo killing Appaman, the top laner for Sengoku, and he's one of the, this is the second place finishing team in the leagues, and that's a game that they won. He has had some very good performances on that. Another person who has had some good performances on this champion locked in is Grendel on the Nautilus, and that's a lot of CC for the Jhin to follow up on.
Yeah, I'm slightly concerned for SHG right now, because with the exception of the set, which of course we saw banned away here, this is essentially exactly the same comp for CGA. They could just lock in the Syndra if it's not picked away now by SHG and play the game exactly the way they played the last one, perhaps with the same success.
Wait, Rek'Sai? What's that going to do for you, buddy? Okay, so that's locked in for Tussle. I guess the Hawks are saying we need to win early game. That's the only thing we can do. We just gotta lock in ourselves some early game kill pressure, and the Akali comes out. It's patch 10.16. The E Shuriken flip has been changed to magic damage, so the magic pen into the mid game, level 13. Very, very strong. But who's really good into Akali? Sylas is one of Aria's best picks, and it is locked in.
It was banned away last time, gets through the second phase this time, and is locked in by Aria, who you keep talking about as being such a strong member of the CGA lineup. Will we see the same sort of performance this time around? Plenty of fun ults in there to steal. The Solar Flare for great engage. Of course, True Shot Barrage for picking off the stragglers.
AP Leonorol is really strong, by the way.
It is. It actually hurts. And I can say that as someone who's played a full AP Leona in plenty of ARAMs from time to time. I'm very, very worried for SHG. I feel like they've opted into similar to what they did in their last game. They've got even more early game urgency, and they didn't do enough with that early game last time to turn it into good mid game. CGA have almost got the exact same comp that they executed well last time. I kind of expect them to do it again.
Well, gotta hope so, because, well, I mean, it depends who you support.
If you're a CGA fan, you do.
Yeah, I was saying, I've gotta hope so, and I'm like, I really like CGA, but I can't be cast. No, I think that, the thing for me is that I want to see the, the high level of play from both teams, because that's what we really want from this as a region, because going into play-ins, we were saying that we want to have high level teams going into play-ins so we can finally regain some of that, well, I mean, we never really had that glory in the international stage. The LJL has not really had those international results. It is a team like CGA.
It was DFM last year, wasn't it? That
it's been DFM for the grand majority of international performances. Okay. MSI, yes. And so you might remember Ebby playing Gnar into Vizicachi on Splice, solo killing him, but that was kind of the one good moment. They took down Splice and they still lost in the group stage, in the playing stage, rather.
Well, these two teams trying to keep their hopes of getting to that playing stage alive. They have got to win 4 best of 5s to get themselves to even have that opportunity. They find themselves in the losers bracket. Something the CGA would probably be quite frustrated about, given the position they were going into last week's final games. Now they've got to do things the hard way. They've made a good start to it, going 1-0 up against SFH in FSH, SFH, SF. They've lost the first game.
That one. Hooray! Yeah, that's how it goes.
My brain does not deal well with the incoming dawn, it appears.
I was about to say, sunlight, what is it? Oh, well, yeah.
It's definitely not sunlight, I'll tell you that much, not where I am.
I was about to say, yeah, no, I was going to say that, saying CJ were really kicking themselves. And just to put that into context, they had a game lead and also the head-to-head over the third-place team coming at week 7. They had 2 games left versus Sengoku, that team which was third place, and DFM, a team which hadn't won against a top-tier team yet, hadn't won against the top 4, which included V3, Sengoku, and CGA. Then they go 0-2. They don't even get a tiebreaker because Sengoku gets 2-0. They don't get that chance to fight for that second seed. And now they have to fight, as you're saying, through at maximum 4 best-of-5s to win this championship, win the LJL. As much as I do think that they're a very flamboyant, explosive team, they really have shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, they've made life very, very difficult for themselves. Coming into this game, how do you rate their chances?
This game, so I do think that Akali Rek'Sai can blow up in the early game. Again, it's going to be a question of how much can they do that. I think that Trundle, again, is going to have a really cushy game. Lots of tanks to shred. And I don't think that Jhin is going to be under too much threat. I think that the Akali, if she gets ahead, might be able to change that. But given that the Renekton is going to be there, sitting on the Akali's face, is saying, I'm going to stun you into Jhin W and you're going to die. I think once again, CJ are very happy to just brawl this game out.
Okay, we'll bring you into the game just as soon as it starts. The champ select completed. The 2 coaches have done, yet again, all that they can to try and help both of these teams towards a game to win. We talked a little bit about the experience of these 2 coaches, arguably the most experienced of anybody involved with this best-of-5 series, coming in with a real storied past. How much does that help a team coming into a game like this?
So we were talking about early game stats and how the Hawks kind of had some crappy ones, and then over the last 6 games, they managed to up their first blood rate to 50% from 27%. A lot of that can be attributed to early game preparation, and early game preparation does come a lot from your coaching staff, right? So bringing in these 2 new names to the Hawks, because of course they brought in 2 people into their coaching staff, whereas CJ still remaining with their same lineup, which is why we thought maybe it would be a bit of a factor in advantage of the Hawks coming into this best-of-5. The early game, that last game, went pretty well. Nice, cool. But the problem is it's not enough. How much is the coaching staff really going to help you in those mid to late game team fights where it is a lot more about just player difference? How are you playing on stage at the day? And we're going to have to see that once again in game 2.
Here we go. CGA versus
HG.
I just can't do it. It's not going to happen. SHG is beginning. We're on to the Rift. We're seeing the early switch over to Oracle Lens, not for just the Rek'Sai, but also for the Leona, interestingly enough.
Okay, that's a little bit more interesting. I guess what that means is that Pooh can clear up bottom side for a potential over-the-wall gank from Tussle. This is something which Rek'Sai can do across that fat wall on, in this case, CJ's bot lane wall. Normally you think you're very safe being a red side bot lane from that kind of gank. You don't have a tri-brush to run through, but Rek'Sai tends to change that kind of perception.
Just looking towards these keystones, we're getting the Conqueror on Ezreal, as well as Rek'Sai, Renekton, and Sylas as well. Interesting variation on a theme for a few of these champions. Haven't seen a huge amount of Sylas in competitive play recently, so glad to see Arya picking this one up. We'll see whether or not he will show us just why this pick is merited. Who might be able to find an early pick here onto Gango if he's not careful. There's the Zenith Blade connecting Gango, trying to step out to safety, already losing 50% of the health before the minions even arrive in lane.
They do, and importantly, that's a trade onto the AD carry, who does have a pot to sustain up, but it's much more important trading onto the AD carry, which is another hook lands.
Yeah, Dredgeline stun there from Grendel. However, he's now lost half of his health as well. This is an interesting start, shall we say, to the bot lane, and with so much attention having been paid to the bot lane by the junglers in the last game. That's where our first blend came through. I expect to see yet more fights going down. Tussle and Unica both positioning towards the bottom half of the map.
They are, and you can see that ward in the tri-brush. Very important. We're talking about the double sweeper start from the side of CGA. If they go for a hook here, barely misses. Might have ended up leading to that Rek'Sai making a very quick trip down to that bot lane with the red buff level 2.
Their Dredgeline was just short. Honey is going to put some vision down as well. So both these teams are a little bit safer if anything comes at them from the tri-bush. Meanwhile, looking towards the other lanes, I'm looking towards the top half of the map as Aranek has already got a huge CS advantage over the Renton, who's having this wave shoved straight to his turret. Unica looking towards the mid lane. He's going to step in behind the Akali, but Tussle is present as well. This could turn into a 2v2 very, very quickly. For now, Dasher is alone as Arya dashes forward. It's going to be Tussle coming in, looking potentially for the flash knockup. Dasher is swinging the Shuriken around, looking for the kills. However, not going to be finding anything just yet. Zenith Blade is going to catch very aggressively on towards Gango. Grendel zoning away. Honey finding some damage once again. As Gango with that 4th shot ripping through the health bar of Honey.
It's so much damage in the early game, and this is why I was considering maybe the Hawks want to ban away that Jhin. Because Ezreal normally works at playing at range and then trying to dodge out of a skill shot, Jhin has so much point-and-click damage, he also does well into this lane. You can understand why he is coming back into priority. He has had some issues being a relatively low mobility carry against stuff like Volibear, Trundle, all these other meta picks which you can get on the AD carry's face. But in this game, when left alone in that 2v2, it's been doing very, very well.
Unica's looking towards the lower half. Scuttle may lose out on some of his topside camps as a result of this. However, Tussle's already getting some decent farm up. Meanwhile, Poo coming across just to clear out some vision, just to try and spot out Unica. Going to narrowly miss out with that ult, though.
We'll do okay. So we do have the Scuttle trade across the map. Arya trading in the mid lane, of course. No kill was onto Dasher. Good at her land of the Abscond Abduct. But the thing about Sylas, after his changes, he really doesn't do great in the early game anymore. He needs to wait until he has a bit more AP under his belt. And Akali is winning this melee matchup so far.
Arya, they're just waiting out the recall from Poo before putting some damage down onto Dasher, who's got a 10 CS advantage. Just the one summoner spell burnt so far. That was the teleport of Honey, getting straight back to lane with the Cull in pocket, having gone so low in those trades against Gango.
And that's kind of important in its own way. Of course, no extra combat summon of that, but there is that 3 teleport to 2 advantage for the Hawks, so we'll have to keep track of that when things get a little bit more messy, and they will get messy. You saw game 1. You don't expect more of the same.
If anything, game 1 was actually calmer than I expected. At least it was for the opening few minutes, and the same is true here as we approach 5 minutes without first blood. There is a 500 gold advantage built up by SHG, courtesy of the CS advantage that you see in both top, mid, and ADC roles as well. Things looking good in the early game for SHG, but this was true last time round, and it didn't pan out so well for them.
This time it is through CS difference rather than kills. Oh, hook through the minion wave.
Redline, Deadly Flourish, both going to catch onto Honey. He flashes away after the Arcane Shift, the Ignite burning him down, but I believe Honey will survive. Will Poo be as lucky? He's stepping himself away, taking damage after damage after damage. Gango is so good on this Jhin.
Why does it matter if you take teleport? Well, you can reset all you want. It does mean you don't have a heal, cleanse, exhaust, anything which might help your current situation in that bot lane. You can see the kill pressure coming out of the Jhin Nautilus. They do burn both their flashes and ignite to get him out of lane, but this will also signal to the green light to Unica to start up the dragon, and an Infernal Dragon, that extra scaling damage, going over to CGA.
Yeah, it's pretty much perfect timing for Unica being able to take this one away
free. He doesn't have a stopwatch.
Easy, as we are going to see this happen way before the Herald spawns. Potential for rotation coming out of Nautilus and Jhin. We'll see if they look towards the top side of the map or if they return to the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, it is coming out to that 8-minute mark when that Herald does spawn, but the teleport is down on Honey. That's one of the things you normally use a teleport on an AD carry to do. It allows you to head up to the Herald and then try and not lose a wave on the bottom side of the map, or teleport up to a fight which burgeons there if you are going to take it with just your top jungle mid. Without that available, looks like CJ might be able to get lane pressure and then rotate up themselves. Unica going to spot out Tussle, but the ward over the wall very well placed from him.
Pillar is very nice, allowing the Dredge line to catch, forcing the flash out of the jungler from SHG.
And that's very important because Arya just picked up a Kaliel. Sylas is very good with that ability. It's one of the best ultimates in the game for him to use because he is also a melee AP assassin, which is, of course, works very well with Akali's kit. And, Honey taking a bad trade there.
Fortunately, Nautilus nowhere in sight, so Honey okay for now, despite losing out on the back of that Arcane Shift. The Deadly Flourish well-timed from Gango, who, as I have said once or twice already, has been playing pretty damn well on the Jhin throughout this series.
He's pretty okay. He's gone for the Swiftness boots first. Arya walking up has a slight XP advantage now. I don't exactly know how he got his hands on that. I guess he just got himself a bit of a better recall. And you will recall we talked about Rek'Sai trying to gank bot lane. Been spotted on a ward, though.
He is indeed very, very little he's going to be able to do to impact this lane at the moment. He's just wasting time. Grendel and Gango, they are playing with fire, but they know exactly what they are doing. Meanwhile, on the top lane, Nap goes aggressive, already popping the Dominus, looking for the extra damage onto Aranik, who calls down Thunder from above and escapes to safety.
Okay, so once again, Arya's going in, never mind that.
going very, very aggressive, looking for the perfect execution onto Dasher, who dashes out to safety at the very, very last moment. Now here comes Tussle looking for the counter engage, but it feels like he's trying to close the stable door after the horse has bolted. Meanwhile, we're going to see Unica and Nap continuing to just dominate around this Rift Herald. They may even be able to start this one up, knowing how low Dasher is, hasn't even got the teleport available to try and get back to lane.
And you can see why Silas does really well with the Kali ultimate. Remember back to last year's MSI, when G2 were doing very well on the international stage. A large part of that was because of the Silas Akali matchup. It's very back and forth, and they have a lot of kill pressure on each other. This time it doesn't lead to anything, just the ultimate's blown, and of course the flash is there too. We'll see if it ends up meaning anything for the larger state of the map, as the Herald is started up by the Hawks.
Interesting, this one, because it felt like CGA, they had the tempo, the potential to start someone up. They opted not to, and now the rotation comes in from Honey and Pooh, and this is going to be SHG securing themselves a Rift Herald, something that they do so infrequently across this split.
They do, and that'll be...
It's the eye!
Dude. Yes, it's like when you're facing a Zelda boss. It's very obvious where the weak point is. It's trying to hold your hand. And Honey is holding, not the hand, but you don't hold people's eyes, Honey. That's really strange. Okay, so he puts it up in the top lane. Gonna look to get himself some plates, but Nap is here to clear out the wave.
Yeah, this one's gonna shove him pretty quickly.
Why would you hold something's eye? That is just creepy. Wait, is he actually gonna get plates? Okay, yeah, he does. Okay, it's a very long range, yeah.
Yes, it is. As someone who has had their share of eye injuries, including a particularly nasty one, which I have a great story about.
See how I can say, maybe we can
please don't hold people's eyes. That's a don't try this at home if ever I heard one. Meanwhile, turret plates do go over to everyone in the top lane, but we see Jin able to secure some, having stayed down on the bottom half.
Imagine how Vel'Koz feels about that.
I mean, that's not even holding someone's eyes. That's just holding someone's eye. I mean, yeah,
it's his whole body. Okay, right. Talk about the fight.
Yeah, Unica going aggressive, trying to steal away camps, using the subjugate, getting out to safety, however, not able to do too much in the opposition jungle. Also falling down 10 CS. 500 gold is the advantage to SHG pre any first blood. With 10 minutes in, this game being played at a slightly slower pace, and for me, that suits CGA to the ground.
It does, and now we have vertical jungling, right? Not vertical jungling. We have that split map where we have, we talk about strong side of the map, weak side of the map, where you have a numbers disadvantage built in. Nap has traditionally been very good at this, but he's getting dove.
First blood's taken a while to come, but it might have now arrived. Flash on to Nap as Pooh is actually the one going lower and lower, and first blood comes in for the Croc, despite being a 3v1. It is going to be a 1-for-1 at the end, but the gold lead almost swings back in favor of CGA as a result of the play of Nap.
And one of the first games of this very split was Nap also outplaying in a 3v1 outplay under a tower. He does it again, he uses his ult, doesn't even have to blow his flash, and once again, it is Pooh going down.
Oh, Dredgeline not going to connect on to Dasher. Second dragon of the game comes up. It's Ocean this time round. Infernal already secured by CGA. We'll be looking at either a Mountain or a Cloud Soul. Find out shortly after Unica takes this objective away.
And okay, CGA getting themselves 2 early dragons. Gonna have to see what that soul is. If it's a mountain, things might get a little bit dicey for CGA, particularly because this Trundle, as we were saying, can steal a lot of tank snaps away from the likes of the Leona after popping the Aftershock and the Volley Bear too. It is going to be...
Blast Cone that absolutely bamboozles him. Zenith Blade connects in. Nap trying to slice, trying to dice, having to flash, getting caught out at the end as Tussle takes his second kill of the game. Both of the kills for SHG going to their jungler so far.
Just as we praise Nap. Where is first turret going to go? It's going to be close on both sides. Honey can't stick at the tower. Does that mean it goes down to CGA? They're backing off too. The next wave's got to come.
I think that we are going to see Honey narrowly get this one. We'll check in just a moment. Ping's going down very, very urgently. In the end, first turret comes in, and it goes to...
It's going to be close.
Django by the skin of his teeth. That is just the tiniest little bit of health remaining, but it is going to be Edgeworld who gets the consolation prize of a second turret. Meanwhile, Dasher and Arya no closer to taking these turrets. That is 5 turret plates taken away in top for SHG. Ooh. 5 turret plates taken away above for CGA. A lot of that gold put onto the respective ADCs.
I actually quite like what Arya did there. I think what he's doing, just making that Akali doesn't have the ultimate available, meaning that she doesn't have side lane presence if they want to go for this more split map kind of play. He's going to still force Dasher to keep in lane, even with his teleport. Let's see what these roaming members of CGA can do. Aramik walking into his red buff. This is dangerous. Nap just did the same thing on the other side of the map.
Walking to the red buff, walking to danger. Dredgeline connects. Flash from the Volley Bear won't take him over the wall. He gets a lot of health back to keep him alive. Unica with the Subjugate able to pick up his first kill of this game on the Cinderhulk Trundle. Now it's Dasher who's in all sorts of trouble, having to use that Shroud already, but caught by the Dredge line regardless, dashing away, managing to get the Somersault out as we see the flash coming in from Silas. Arya caught by the Zenith Blade, putting good damage down, looking for the Kingslayer, looking to try and get a heal out of Gango, who comes across, finds a Deadly Flourish, but doesn't manage to find a root, having not previously landed any damage on towards Pooh. We now see the main contest be over the Raptors.
Yeah, Raptors, the best objective in the game. Any mid laner or jungler will tell you that's the thing they fight the hardest over, at least in my solo queue games.
Usually against their own teammates, though, rather than
Yes, it is. It's been the classic since Season 2, and Corky mid was the thing. You just go over and Foss bomb all the small raids away. They're Raptors now, no longer the little capey ghosty guys. That's the best thing I can come up with. But yeah,
Keep your ghost guys.
Yeah, keep your ghost guys. Grendel flashes over the wall, lands a great as dredge line. That's cool, but then the shroud comes down and you can't land your passive auto. The CC chain is not quick enough. It doesn't overlap, and it means that Dasher gets the flash out. And Arya's left in a bit of trouble, which means that, of course, Gango Hatsu blows own flash. We once again have this split map, but this time it's going to be the majority of CJ's members in the mid lane, not in the side lane.
All of that gold lead that belongs to SHG is in the pocket of Ezreal, who's taking turret plate after turret plate after turret plate. Nap doing his best Sindra impression, going in between turrets, looking for damage onto Aramek. Unica's going to arrive too late to pillar off the Volley Bear's escape. Another turret secured pre-14 minutes, getting all of that extra gold onto Honey. This is a good way for SHG to find themselves some advantage in this game. Give all of that extra gold onto Honey, who's already got the mirror mana, looking towards what will potentially be, I was going to say Trinity Force, but it looks more like to be an Iceborne Gauntlet at this point. Deadly Flourish is going to connect onto Pooh, but he is mighty tanky, able to get himself out to safety. Meanwhile, Tussle stealing away a blue buff. Things looking good in the early game for SHG, and they're holding on to that lead for longer than they did in game 1.
They are for now, but they of course still have to play against that 2-dragon disadvantage, and the fact that this Renekton is getting really far ahead of the Volibear now. Got 40 CS and that extra kill to his name. That Full Blade, the Ruin King completion will start to be very impactful when you start diving the likes of the Ezreal and the Akali in the team fights and trying to burst them out in the duration of that empowered WCC from the Renekton. We do have a lot of sideline turrets falling down. You're going to have to play very respectfully across the map, and that's why we see Arya sticking very closely to his own tower. He's still in some danger here.
Yeah, he's already been spotted out by the Tremor Sense as Tussle looks for a potential engage. This is Arya having to be very, very careful. Tussle has all the engage potential he can need with the flash available. Grendel is going to be able to get over here just about in time, and I don't think that Dasher and Tussle are going to take this fight. Remember, second Herald of the game is now available, so seeing all these plays towards the bottom half of the map, especially with Tussle, the jungler here, this is a dangerous, dangerous game that SHG are playing.
I mean, I guess the Jaws music gets to fade into the background. Nothing quite so horror movie-ish this time around. We are left with, is that the second Herald spawn? Overlapping with the third dragon. It is a Cloud Rift, not that Mountain Dragon, as we were saying. Hey, that might be really good for CJ. But ultimate cooldown reduction, when you're fighting as often as these two teams are, can be a tide turner in these kind of games.
Vision is the name of the game. We saw it be quite poor last time around for SHG, who kept getting caught out. CGA trying to fight it out around this third dragon. This would put them on soul point so early in the game. Were they able to obtain it? They have teleport available on Nap as they look for potential 5v5. Volibear trying to walk things over, trying to keep a TP advantage for his team. But meanwhile, we see the continued push of the Renton top lane. Unica losing a lot of health from the True Shot barrage, and perhaps with the jungler going low, they may cede this dragon over to SHG.
It might do. Nap is relatively strong, as we were saying. However, with the Sunfire Bramble onto Aramek, he can stand in the front line for a pretty long amount of time. Tussle's found his way around the back, and Arya's not swept out this vision. This could be a huge pick.
He's in all sorts of trouble, finding himself knocked up by the Unburrow, and that isn't a complete obliteration. Honey finding himself his first kill of the game, having just completed that IBG. Meanwhile, Renekton has looked to try and join the fray. He hasn't even teleported. He's walked down to the mid lane, but with the mid lane dead, it is going to be a seeded dragon going over to SHD as they deny soul point for now.
They do for now, and this is one of the follow-on effects from having a split map, where you have huge numbers of people on one side of the map from one team, and then mirrored on the other side. Vision control gets a little bit wacky. Right there, CJ do not do their due diligence in cleaning out all of the pink wards, which of course you don't even need a sweeper for. Arya is trying to play respectfully, but just doesn't see where that ward there, and gets caught up by the Rek'Sai.
And I want to give credit to SHG in this game, because one of the big complaints I had as Mass1 asked us the questions during the break was that they didn't play respectfully enough, that they kept getting called out. The pick comp became the picked comp. And in this game, it feels like they're playing things out a lot better around vision, around these objectives. They've got themselves near to the 20-minute mark, still with the gold lead intact. The second Herald could be their next point of focus.
I really want to praise Tussle too, because Rek'Sai is a champion which falls off in 5v5s very hard if you do fall behind, and it's not really your preferred style of play. Tussle has managed to make these uneven fights where you can just dive onto a single person who's out of position much better than some other champions in the game. He's been doing that with very good regularity and punishing some points of power for CJ as a team as a whole, and the likes of Arya very well so far.
Right now, it's all about Nap and Honey. You see those gold leads that they have over their respective lane opponents, and we have to see whether Nap can get on top of Honey and if the Renton can be on top of the Ezreal, because that will be very, very, very bad news bears for SHG should it happen. However, they look like they're going to be able to take away the second Herald of the game, definitely padding their stats quite nicely, stats which have been fairly poor before now, as Dasher walks headfirst into Unica and strips away a good chunk of health. However, Gango looking to close in. Nap is on the background. Deadly Flourish does not connect. That's going to be Dasher without without a shroud to go into, getting flashed upon. It's Gango who eventually secures the kill despite Nap's flash, as we see yet more aggression from CGA. They equalize the kill score, but they do lose that second Herald.
You know, I just gotta stop reading off the script about Blade of the Ruin King diving onto Akali and making their life hard. Well, you know, sorry, I had to spoil that one. Nap comes in a very opportune time, does blow the flash for it, and now it's Hawks under trouble in their mid lane outer turret.
Recall going to come in from Aramik. He's pushed the wave in the top side as Nap continues to do the same on the bottom half of the map. There's still that huge advantage for the Renekton over the Volibear, and we saw just what that Renekton could do as we saw Dasher's life pass from before his own eyes. He has now respawned. He's going to be able to rejoin his team in the mid lane as they look to push away CGA.
I am now envisaging someone getting Trundle ulted and then 5-stack Black Cleavered by Renekton and then Jhin 4th-shotting them. If this does reach a point where we get a good kill combo from CGA, no one survives that. We see what happens to Dasher.
Look at Nap with the walk around here.
I mean, he doesn't pop the Rek'Sai tunnel. That would have given away his position. Unica, I mean, it's a little bit risky, I guess, but he's got this team just with him. Dasher was feeling very strong at this point in the game, I guess. He just gets a little bit too big for his breaches. He's taken down.
Cool. Coming in, Honey already eating 3 other shots and not the final 4th. I keep talking about that curtain call 4th shot, and I'll keep talking about it until Gango hits it and kills somebody.
Well, the Herald does hit and kill the mid lane outer turret for CGA. These towers are fought over so viciously. Very important to track when they go down. It's 20 minutes before the first one comes in.
The bot's not so sure this time.
Yeah, the Blitzcrank bot is not feeling so happy about this game, at least.
I Blitzcrank, I indeed. Meanwhile, Aramik is just going to clear some vision out around the blue.
Do you reckon it stars in a movie with Will Smith and it follows 3 rules about not harming humans?
I have played plenty of games against the Blitzcrank that definitely doesn't feel that way, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say no to that one. We do see 3-man stacks up in the top side of the Rift, make that 4-man for SHG. They're looking to continue to push these early game advantages. We're approaching to mid game. SHG well and truly in this game, which at this point in the last game, couldn't really say.
Yeah, and it's still a middling gold lead for the Hawks, but 1,000 gold at 20 minutes is not really that much. I would normally say at 15 minutes, 3,000 is a significant lead. 1,000 is okay, right? That's like wards for your whole team, half a component or something like that, a component across your whole team. At this point, it's much more on your execution rather than the combat stats you have and the power spikes of your champions. Importantly, speaking of power spikes, we're reaching that point in the game where we're expecting Ezreal to get his Muramana transformation up from the Manamune. Very important because this dragon's coming up in 20 seconds. It would be soul point for CJ. Ooh, Nap catches Tussle.
Whoa, I wasn't sure if it was Tussle finding Nap or Nap finding Tussle there. It was Nap who was recalling, but it's Tussle who loses 70% health. As a result, this could easily be 3rd dragon of the game going to CGA.
Aramik's way deep here.
They may well find themselves the catch onto the Volibear instead. Slice and Dice coming through. Deadly Flourish not going to connect. Stun is going to come in from Nap. There's a low health bar on Aramik as he flashed himself away. Remember, Tussle having to complete that recall, looking to try and get back into the fight. This is a 4th dragon, which does mean it is not going to be anywhere near as low health itself as low resistances as those first two dragons, but even so, it does look like SHG have accepted they can't do anything about it, especially with teleport coming in from Arya to the back of the pit. This is going to be a third dragon of the game for CGA, and now they look towards a collapse. Arya trying to make the most of the teleport that he's just used, maybe looking towards Honey, unable to find the catch as Dasher continues the push in the top lane.
The Hawks seek safety in numbers, run up towards the top side of the map where Dasher is currently pushing. Grendel, you don't want to walk in there. Close.
Almost loses a big chunk of his health bar, but able to sidestep the Mystic Shot at the last moment. Yeah. Dasher, meanwhile, has developed a rather significant CS lead in comparison to Arya right now, almost 40 CS up against the lane opponent, and that's definitely going to help out when you look at the potential assassination that Ari can put down.
Ari, yeah, that's champion I love to see. Being that 1 million Ari point main myself, I mean, it was only natural for me to get something lost in translation really attached to this mid laner called Arya. It's very natural for me.
I mean, let's be honest, we all know where the favoritism comes from here. I mean, yeah, you might as well pop a little picture of a face of actual Arya onto your new chair when it arrives, and then you're sorted.
Well, that's a plan for the future. We'll see whether that does come to pass as it does stand. Speaking of, talking about the assassination potential being in the favor of Dasher right now, having that extra lead, has himself a lot of magic pen. We're talking about level 13, maxed out the shuriken flip, maxed out your Q as well, your ults at second level. And with the magic damage, with the damage type of your shuriken flip, that E, now being magic damage, it benefits from the magic penetration. And being most of the magic damage on your team means that you're not going to have so much MR being built up by CGA. Lots of damage coming out of Dasher on this pick, even more so than on previous patches.
Well, let's just see what continues to happen. So by this point in the game, last time around, CGA had taken the proverbial bull by the horns despite the lack of Alistair in the game, and we're getting pretty close to ramping up towards the conclusion. This time around, they still find themselves very, very slightly down in gold, and it's at this point, as we approach 25 minutes, that I bring out the S word. It's going to be scaling. Here we go
not
again.
Sion. Oh, he's not in the game. Oh, cool.
Definitely.
I was worried there for a second.
It's
scaling. Right, okay. So, Jin, really, really good at scaling once he gets to Infinity Edge. He can rip through this entire team. I think Trundle has absolutely potential to outscale something like a Rek'Sai, but is currently a level to 11.5 down. And the Rek'Sai can still fulfill their purpose if they manage to get just the knock up into half a HP bar on someone like Gango or Arya to try and finish off that assassination. I think right now, Nap is way outvaluing the Volibear in the fights, and if he keeps ahead, he'll be able to burst out someone like the Akali or Ezreal better than the Volibear can do in his own right. I think right now, it's relatively even, but if it goes super late game, CGA win.
Dasher very nearly had some 41 playing on the headphones. He was in too deep, but he gets himself out to safety. Doesn't get spotted out by the Scry's
You'd have
Bloom.
to look up some more songs with deep in their name. I know that one's great, but we need some variety here, dude.
I mean, I could have said he'd gone full Adele and was rolling in the deep, I guess. But,
nice. I like that one. I hadn't thought about that one.
I mean, maybe his favourite colour's purple? I don't know.
Yeah. You see, the first band I ever saw live with Deep Purple.
That's a pretty cool first band.
I know, it's really good. I mean, I saw it Busted when I was like 8, but we don't talk about that.
That is actually the first band, and that is from now on what you must forever tell people is your first watch band live. Whereas I, on the other hand, we are still able to tell people that it was U2 on their Vertigo tour, and I was lucky enough to end up on the inner circle of that, and it was frankly fantastic, because say what you want about Bono, he's a hell of a performer.
Yes, and I was going to segue off of that. I was trying to think of anything, but I just can't find what I'm looking for. And we are left with this lull state once again, 26 minutes in, waiting for the next dragon spawn and the next big fight.
It's quite frustrating because unfortunately I can't complete this game with or without you. So we are just waiting to see as the Vision game ramps itself up who is going to try and pull the trigger first. Of course, dragons will become relevant again in a moment as CGL will look towards securing Cloud Soul for themselves. An extra burst of speediness onto this team will make Gango officially be the fast.
Oh yeah, and no one will be able to stop him, he will keep going unless they do. And actually that's a really big point, right? Because there are a lot of people who are really desperately trying to get on top of him, and a lot of peel will have to come in from CJ's team to try and keep him alive. Having that Infinity Edge and triple crit item combo means he will be just destroying health bars. I was about to say decimating health bars, but did you know that's actually not that much? It just takes a 10th off. Des is like the 10th. It's a Roman punishment. You'd kill every 10th person in Legion if they deserted.
Huh.
Yeah, decimation. It's a Roman era punishment. It sounds really cool though.
I mean, it did until you described it. Unica is going to lose more than a tenth of his health. He's going to have to flash away, and that's a crucial summon to be missing on your jungler, especially as you come towards this dragon spawn in round about 30 seconds time. We are going to see blue buff stolen away, but CGA find themselves in a taken away, as CGA find themselves in a desperate spot. SHG closing in around them. Arya has the teleport available. We have got a fight about to break out here on the bottom half of the river.
We do. Gango's trying to get up towards 4th spot. Honey is very strong here on the 2-item Ezreal, though. Look at it!
Unica keeps going down to the river, but he needs to pray he escapes. He's going to give away this dragon. SHG able to deny Soul Point, able to get themselves a second Cloud Dragon as the cooldown reduction increases.
If you don't shut down the Ezreal in the same way that you can't, if you don't shut down the Jhin and they start free firing, they just have way too much damage at this point in the game. 2-item Ezreal is bad enough, has the Death Stance too for that 45% CDR alongside the Ionian Boots of Lucidity. Honey is doing a lot of work for the Hawks right now.
Very, very true. Honey's been the player who has been essentially the furthest ahead on gold in terms of everybody on this rift so far in this entire game, and still showing what he can do. Now at the 3-item mark with the Executioner's calling to boot as well. Things looking very, very good for the Ezreal. Definitely better than in the last game on the Ashe. Things playing out in SHG favour a little bit more so. So we see the Mystic Shot going narrowly wide of its intended target, Jhin.
I think the real problem is Unica has been, whereas Nap has been the beneficiary of the split map, Unica has been the person who is cost him the most. He's lost most of his camps to Tussle running through the jungle, or one of his own team members taking it. And he's now 2 levels behind Tussle, and he's very much being able to be assassinated. If he doesn't immediately find himself a target to subjugate with his ultimate, he's in a bit of a bad spot. He's trying to bait out, but he's seen by the Tremor Sense.
We didn't see this in the last game. This is the clever play coming out from SHG. They are working as a team. However, Tussle is still caught out. Uses the Void Rush. However, Arya goes golden. It's Tussle who's in all sorts of danger. Nap closes in, flashes in, dashes in, looks to find the kills. The Dominus has been procced. Tussle gets out to safety. Arya taken low on the backside as we see Ezreal shooting away for days. Arya finds the kill onto Pooh as Honey tries to trade back with the Mystic Shot. Curtain Call comes through as not 1, but 2, but 3. 4th shot finally connects, but this time it was the only one. Gango, sort yourself out.
The only one you need is 4, says Gango, but it is not 4. Divide that in half, and you get 2 kills for the side of CGA. They do manage to out-brawl the Hawks, and this has been the hallmark of CGA. They are taking the Baron now because they think that they can just take it in the 5v3.
Double TP coming in as both Dasher and Honey look to try and stop this one from being picked up by CGA. The smite comes in, and that is going to be Baron onto 5 members. However, how many of those 5 will survive the ensuing chaos as Honey looks to pick away at the health bars, unable to decimate what even is 10% of 5? Half.
10% of 5? What? No, it's 0.5 would be 10%.
Yeah, exactly half.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing. I was like, half of... No, 10% is not the same as half. But the Baron is not the same. 2 kills is not the same as a Baron, at least. Well, maybe it is if you are CGA. Gango managing to run up using his extra move and speed, and he gets into the fight just towards the back end of it. More importantly here, Arya manages to Zhonya's out on that Void Rush. We were talking about how Tussle really falls off into the later stages of the game. If he can't get that assassination threat down, 5v5 is just not their domain, whereas someone like Renekton, who is so far ahead and can't be burst out himself, just manages to get 2 slice and dices across the entire team fight, shredding armor. That's another thing which shreds armor, by the way. And just the rest of his team runs rampant on the back end. They finally have themselves a gold lead, Stan.
It's taken longer than last time to be accrued. However, this time, yet again, CGA find themselves that 1,000 gold lead. They find themselves a Baron buff on 5 of their team, as Gango now is able to absolutely rinse through these turrets. Another turret will be secured here in the mid lane. Tussle potentially looking for an engage. Arcane shift forward from
Arya's not there.
Flashing forward, finding the solar flare onto Grendel. In goes Dasher, trying to find the damage, but getting locked down by the deadly flourish. And Gango obliterates the health by finding his second kill of the game. This Jhin is doing work. It needs to be banned out for game number 3. I'm telling you right now, SHG, look at Pooh's health bar. You can't, because it's not there anymore, and neither is the Leona.
It's a null value. Nothing left to be seen. Scraped off the scoreboard. And with those 2 kills, with the Baron buff still there, it looks like it might even be an inhibitor, all things said and done.
We're looking towards when that wave is going to arrive here in the mid lane. Grendel going to tank things up just for a moment as he dredge lines himself towards the turret. Rek'Sai only just completing the recall now, and this is a strong 5-man unit that is closing towards the inhibitor turret. Will find the inhibitor. The question is, can CGA find themselves anymore? Honey trying to bait in. You see how low Unica's health bar is. This could be the disengage from CGA as they look to return, tail, and run. And it's going to be Tormented Cell for Unica, getting himself out to safety. He's still deathless on this Trundle in this game.
Somehow, he's been taken low very many times, but it is not enough to kill him, as you're saying. And every time these fights go the way of CJ, they manage to reclaim a bit more of that XP deficit for Unica, or for Arya in the mid lane too, who's managing to keep up in items. He's gone for a Lichbane on the Silas, interestingly enough. I know he picked up a Sheen before that important dragon fight, which of course then ended up getting called off because Unica was taken so low. I wonder if he just picked up the Sheen because he had money and wanted the CDR. Either way, he's stuck with that Lichbane now. His auto attacks are going to hit like a truck.
Don't let the low kill score confuse you, because with Dragon available again, the fights continue, and Nap is dominant on the Dominus of Renekton. It's going to be Grendel going golden, staying alive. Hextech Proto Belt forward from Arya, finding the kill onto Dasher. Arnik trying to jump over the wall, finding himself immediately followed by Unica. The pillar is put down, and Honey is caught out. Arya trying to chase down, looking towards the Ezreal, who now has to flash away. Curtain call comes through. 1, 2, 3...
No!
Hasn't hit 4. Tussle now is caught in all sorts of trouble. Caught underneath his own turret. Does find the kill onto Grendel. Guardian's Angel will be popped, and Nap will nom down onto the Void Creature's Deadly Flourish. Is going to connect. Unica is going to get knocked up. Is going to take a turret shot. Is going to go forward, staying alive for a moment, but the Nexus turrets are under fire while we see the Void Rush from Tussle. He takes down Unica, but he is going to lose at least one Nexus turret. Second Nexus turret falls as well. Pooh has nothing he can do to stop CGA's onslaught. 2-0 to your favorites coming in to this third game of the series. They're at match point.
Okay, wow, CGA, we said that it might come down to something like a 3-0, and it's pretty much has, again, in the second game, gone a bit to script. The Hawks try and flip things around with a bit of a split map, but of course, we're going to have to go and gather some of our thoughts on that issue while we go to a quick break. Hello, and welcome back to our post-match analysis of Game 2 of Round 1, Match 1 in the playoffs for LJL Summer 2020. That's so many words in such a small span of time. And, speaking of numbers, words, and everything, the number 4 comes to mind. Jin came out again in this game, Stan, and, we were talking about wanting to ban it. How did that seem to you in that game?
Well, we sort of hyped up mid lane potential coming into this, talked about Dash, we talked about Arya, but this seems to have been a game of two ADCs at the moment. We've just seen Honey get funneled, get a massive gold lead, but for the second game in a row, Gango was the one who came out big at the end, and a lot of that was on the back of the Jin plays.
So we're talking about the Ezreal, talking about the Jin. I think one of the things which was very important to me was the Hawks tried something a bit different. And it kind of worked. They split up the map. They made sure they had lane swaps. And I know you were talking about you wanted to see a bit more movement around the map from the Hawks, and you were kind of annoyed about teams who don't use their rotations very well. What did you personally make of the split map? Because I think it worked out pretty well, at least in getting Honey ahead. I'm just wondering if it was at the cost of the Jin also getting just insurmountably too far ahead.
Even more than the Jin, I think the Renton that got such a huge lead over the Volibear in this one, he was very much so the beneficiary of the rotations that were made specifically by the Hawks. I liked what the Hawks did. However, we talked about them needing to take that early game lead and push those advantages. That I will accept that they held on to their advantages longer, but I don't for a moment believe they actually pushed them. The gold lead never got more than sort of around about the 1,000, 2,000 mark.
Actually, because remember that happened in game 1 too.
Exactly. So it's not like they actually took that lead and made something better of it. What actually happened was they held the lead for a little bit longer before eventually succumbing.
Yeah, and I guess that all came around that 2 kills into the Baron in the top side, side. Just everything just fell apart through that.
I literally, a split second before those 2 kills came in, said I was so pleased with the way that suddenly the Hawks were moving as a unit, clearing out vision. And then Tussle and Pooh go, oh yeah, it's definitely safe to clear this ward out, despite Tremorsense having just spotted someone on the other side of the wall, give away those kills, start the fight poorly for the Hawks, and, well, the rest is history now.
Yeah. I have to say, I mean, it's not something we wrote down, because normally, when we go to a break, we talk about what we're going to talk about when we come back. I think that Unica, for someone that fell so far behind, and that's partly due to his pathing, partly due to the split map, he didn't die up until that last bit down and when the game was ending, and he was the guy that put down the pillar which caught everyone out in that topside fight. He managed to survive through an awful lot of stuff, so I really want to give him some credit too. That Trundle was pretty decent.
Yeah, I think it was absolutely fine. Has been in both the games. I wouldn't call it particularly the most impactful thing on the map in either of those games, but it played its part, did a solid enough job. So credit to Unica on that. That being said, in a world as you've said before, where Arya seems to be the basket where all the eggs are put in, it turns out there are actually multiple baskets on this team because Gango's been great, Nap has been a star performer in both games, and I think there's so much more than just shutting down one team member that the Hawks need to do in Game 3 if they want any chance of this reverse sweep.
I agree with that. And, well, speaking of reverse sweeps, the future, and everything else it might entail, we are going to go to a quick break, go refresh ourselves before we dive right back into the action with Game 3. See you around.